severity index falling, corruption rising. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong is in danger. We see the problem here, but do we really know what the ultimate goal for reform is? The end goal isn't to capture the culprit after the fact, and it isn't to brag about solving a major fraud case. Rather, the ultimate goal is to ensure that corruption is tackled at its root: greed. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to see the overall picture and retune our moral compass. Raphael Hui, the former chief secretary for administration, was charged with corruption while in office. Even though his job required him to serve the public, he chose to put his own personal gain ahead of those he was supposed to serve. What's more worrying is the fact that people didn't seem to care. We didn't see politicians yelling in the Legislative Council, and we certainly didn't see street protests calling for change. The reality is, we don't need to consult the basic law to understand that what Mr. Hui did was wrong. What we do need to consult, however, is our collective conscience as to why there has been no outcry. This reflects very poorly on society as a whole. When we look at Hong Kong, what do people care most about? Are my bank accounts growing? Did my shares grow today? And when our city is so obsessed with material wealth, it's no wonder that we've lost our moral compass. What we need now is a group of advocates who are willing to start the discussion on corruption. Take, for example, Joshua Wong. Whether or not we agree with his views, he's been able to successfully galvanize public interest, leading to discussion in the political sphere. When someone does this for corruption, more and more people can join this process of re-evaluation. And then slowly, politicians and businessmen won't simply be evaluating if they're violating the law, but they'll be evaluating if they're violating their own moral standards. We all know the phrase, lights, camera, action. And we know without the word action, there'll be no start. Similarly, in the case of corruption, scandal, outcry, corruption and scandal have set the stage. But it's with outcry that we effect tangible change. We have two choices now. We can either stay at home while the going is still good, or we can be brave enough to voice out against corruption before it gets out of hand. The ball is in our court. The fate of the city is in our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, what is our next move? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Very good.
Thank you.
I certainly take to heart your idea that it's better to prevent corruption than to have to catch the culprit later. And you talked about the duty of people to stand up against corruption. But what sort of hard measures, clear measures might the government of Hong Kong take to prevent corruption so that we aren't in the situation where we're simply catching culprits?
I think what's going on right now in the status quo is something that we should be continuing. Why? Because let's look at Raphael Hui, let's look at Timothy Tong, and let's look at Donald Tsang. What the government is doing by prosecuting them or investigating them is a step in the right direction. Now, why is this? Because when we see that these people are being prosecuted even though they're in a high position, the government is sending out a very strong message to the public and to the officials that we will not tolerate corruption. And when the government continues enacting such measures, when they crack down on officials as such, then these officials will understand that what they're doing is not the best thing to do. And in my speech, when we see that the public continues to hammer on these issues, we only make this measure even stronger. Thank you.
My question's about a very topical social issue, marriage equality.
Okay.
Should same-sex marriage be legalized in Hong Kong?
Yes, that's something that definitely should be legalized in Hong Kong. But before we do that, what we need is organic change. Now, why do I say this? Because we see that actually marriage and being allowed to be married and the idea of marriage is actually a social construct. So when people are actually allowed to have same-sex marriage, it's only when the society is actually behind these people. So what we do first, if we want to legalize same-sex marriage, is change the mindset of the people. We need organic change to allow the people to understand that this is something we should accept. And once these people have accepted the idea of same-sex marriage. And when the societal construct is changed, that's the best time when we should actually allow people to have same-sex marriage. Thank you.